Good morning. This is the first lecture of our discussion on ethics. So, ethics is basically part of General Studies 4, that is, in the mains examination, there are 4 papers of General Studies, right? So, the fourth paper relates to ethics, integrity, and aptitude. So, within that paper, there are multiple dimensions that need to be covered. The first dimension that today we are going to be talking about is ethics and human interface. So the basic idea that we need to keep in mind sort of is that what is the meaning of ethics, right? What is the relevance of ethics for an individual? What is the relevance of ethics for a society, for public administration? What is the meaning of morality? Is there a difference between these two terms, ethics and morality? And what are the different dimensions of ethics? Now, that is something that I am going to be discussing with you in this particular lecture. So now the idea is that this will be a continuous series of lectures, and I'll be trying to cover the entire basic part of theory relating to this paper, and then gradually as we move ahead we will go more and more into applied ethics. That is, we will be discussing the application of newly acquired, let us say, moral knowledge to present day dilemmas, wherein we will try and understand how we can use our knowledge of ethics to solve the problem that we may face in our day-to-day lives as administrators, as human beings, whatever the case may be, right? So let us begin. Okay, so the first thing that sort of we need to sort of discuss is that what is this definition of ethics, right? What is basically ethics? So now ethics is nothing but a systematic study of human actions, to the extent that what we are trying to do is that we are trying to sort of analyze the rightness or the wrongness of human actions, whether human actions are good or they are bad, whether they are desirable or whether they are undesirable, right? So it's a systematic study of human actions. So if we are going to do a systematic study of anything for that matter, we need to have certain set of principles in mind, right? So what are those principles going to be? So there may be a possibility that, let us say, you are an American and you have defined certain set of principles which make certain actions right and certain actions wrong. I may be an Indian, somebody may be a European, somebody else may be a Chinese, somebody else may be Japanese. We are living in the 21st century. We are all very different kinds of people. We are all living in very different kinds of society, right? So this systematic study of human action to determine how right or wrong a particular action is referred to as ethics, right? Now, why is this kind of a systematic study required? See, society is nothing but basically it is an aggregation of human actions within society, right? So like I am doing, let us say, 100 actions per day, and let us say that you are doing 100 actions per day, and all of us are doing 100 actions per day, and all of those actions taken together is basically what is forming this society, is holding this society up, or is damaging the society, or whatever the may be the case. Now so many actions are being performed in society, there has to be a way of categorizing those actions as right, wrong, desirable from the viewpoint of functioning of the society, smooth functioning of the society, or continuous functioning of the society. So to that extent, study of ethics, or rather study of human actions, become important for society. So let us say that we have come to some sort of a common understanding that these actions are desirable, these actions are undesirable, these are good, these are bad, right? And let us say that we are all members of, let us say, this Indian society, and we are all aware of those standards, so we can follow those standards, right? And if some of us are exhibiting deviant behavior, then those members who are exhibiting deviant behaviors can be appropriately punished so as to discourage any further deviant behavior. So there are thousands and thousands of choices out of which we have to make our action, right? So how do we choose the right course of path? So we as a society need to ensure that, let us say, a majority of us, a lion's share of us, should be choosing the right action. For example, right, taking care of our children, sending them to schools, providing them good food, providing them good health services, taking care of their early childhood needs, so on and so forth. Now that may be considered an ethical duty of parents. If this standard is not known within the society, or it's not talked about within the society, then the entire basis of society will be at risk. Why? Because we will not be adequately taking care of our future generation. So to that extent, it sort of ensures that all of us are making the right choices and the society is reasonably cohesive. Now that doesn't mean that I have no individual freedom. Even that is a part of ethics. The fact that I have a right to choice is also a part of ethics, but my choices have to be within the larger framework of the society. So there is some relation between ethics and society. That is the point that we should broadly keep in mind. Similarly, public administration is basically a subsystem of the entire society. What do I mean by subsystem? So there are so many subsystems. There is religion, there is laws, there is schools, there is of course family, and then there is also public administration. So now we as members of society are a part of public administration, and public administration is playing an important role for the entire society, right? And you all know that an IAS officer, say, or an IPS officer, or any officer for that matter, has to take so many decisions. Now, on what basis are they going to be taking those decisions? Because if those decisions are wrong, if those decisions are undesirable, if those decisions are such that they are going to have a negative impact on society, we are going to have a serious problem. That is why we as civil services aspirants or in future civil servants must be very, very cognizant of the repercussions of our actions, of the implications of our actions, and to be aware of those repercussions, to be aware of the implications, and choosing actions in such a manner that the overall society is benefited or we are doing justice to our roles. We need to be ethical. So to that extent, there is an overlap between ethics and public administration. Similarly, going ahead, we need to discuss what is the scope of ethics, right? So as we have been saying that ethics basically deals with human action. So human actions are those actions which have been taken consciously, deliberately, which have been sort of, it is basically premeditated. I am thinking about it and then I am reacting. I am not just sneezing, or I am not just coughing, or I am not just scratching my hand because of mosquito bite, right? Those are not the kind of actions that ethics is going to be dealing with. Ethics as a subject is going to be dealing with actions which have been taken with a clear intention in our mind, right? So what we need to study is that what were those intentions and what were the paths that were selected to achieve those intentions. To that extent, ethics is basically dealing with human actions and not actions of human. Similarly, going ahead, there is very critical need to distinguish between ethics as a guiding system of human actions and other available guiding systems of human action. So what are the other available guiding systems of human action? So there is of course morality, there is religion, there is law, there is cultural norms, right? So if we already have law, let us say religion, let us say cultural norms, then why do we need ethics? See, for the simple reason that look, ethics has been a part of human society since time immemorial, and it has been proven by scientific research, empirical observations, that even in animal societies, even let us say amongst dolphins, or among wild dogs, or amongst foxes, or amongst wolves, or amongst apes, closest cousins of human beings, there is a good amount of kinship based obligations even amongst animals, right? That they provide for each other, they take care of each other, they stand by each other, right? And there is great amount of reciprocity involved, and there are fights even within the animal kingdom, to the extent that basically if somebody is exhibiting a deviant behavior, they will be punished by the group. So my point is that some sort of a sense of right and wrong, or desirable and undesirable, has been a part of, let us say, the animal kingdom, and let us say of the humans, since a very, very long time. But given the complexity of the society today, we need to sort of distinguish between ethics and from other codes, like for instance morality. Now we will be discussing in greater details in the future slides about what is the difference between ethics and morality. Suffice it to say over here that morality is very, very individualistic sort of a motivation or a demotivation, that I personally think that there is no harm in waging a war to forward national interest, whereas you may not agree with me. You may feel that war at no cost, or rather war at every cost, should be avoided. So my morality is my morality. It is very individualistic. It is coming from internal, right? And it doesn't matter whether anybody else accepts it or not. Because that is not the case with ethics. Let us say that within public administration, all of us have to follow the code of ethics within prevailing within that organization, institution, or they are expected to follow the code which is expected to sort of further the benefit of the larger society. You don't have a choice. So that is little bit, we'll get greater into greater details about this going ahead. ethics is definitely not religion as of today's date. So there was a time when, let us say, even our Bhagavad Gita. So what is Bhagavad Gita? As you will see, it is basically an example of normative ethics, wherein Sri Krishna suggested, or rather, sort of, put down the rights and the wrongs, or the things that are allowed and things that are desirable and things that are not desirable. So who gave it? Who gave Bhagavad Gita? Sri Krishna himself, right? And now, like just similar to Bhagavad Gita, there are 10 commandments, or God coming and speaking with Zeus, so on and so forth. So initially, religion and morality, they were very much tied together. Not so much now. Not so much now, for the simple reason that I may not be religious, but that doesn't mean that I can afford to be unethical, or I can afford to ignore ethics. So ethics is also not about following the law, right? Why is ethics not about following the law? Because law may be silent on many new aspects. Law may not be able to sort of, like, for example, law in India, section 377, it's sort of criminalized homosexuality, but it seemed unethical to punish somebody for their sexual choices, right? So we have sort of done away with that law, but till now it was not allowed, right? But we challenged it. Similarly, new technologies develop, and with new technologies developing, new choices develop. Now, how to choose amongst those choices is something that human beings need to decide until a law is put into place. For instance, should I go for genetic engineering of my baby such that my baby is, let us say, tall, fair, smart, handsome, so on and so forth, or should I not do that? Now, if that choice is suddenly available to me, law may not be available to guide me initially. To that extent, ethics should guide me. It is not about following cultural norms. Ethics is much more than cultural norms. Our cultural norms, let us say, were patriarchal. Let us say promoted casteism. Let us say were sort of favoring only a very small minority within the Hindu society. That is the upper caste male. Now, if that is the case, if those were my cultural norms, today's times, I cannot be following my cultural norms because they are not ethical. They are not giving equal opportunity to all other human beings. To that extent, cultural norms may be helpful, but may not be a complete guide so far as ethics is concerned. So ethics is something much more than all of this. Yes, there can be components of religion, there can be component of cultural norms. Like, for example, let us say that if being helpful is a part of our cultural norm, that is also ethical. So yes, to that extent, cultural norms do help. But we may have to get ahead of that, right? So now, moving ahead, try and understand the meaning of this word moral. It can be used as an adjective and it can be used as a noun. If I'm using it as an adjective, what it basically means is that I am going to be holding certain principles of right and wrong behavior. I'm sort of conducting myself via those principles. So that is an adjective. It sort of basically describes me. And as a noun, moral means certain set of principles that we can learn, or certain set of principles that we can derive out of some kind of stories. So it's very important to understand the meanings, the very simple meanings of these apparently simple words in ethics: honesty, patriotism, integrity. We need to understand the basic meaning, and we need to be able to produce that basic meaning in the final paper. But there is a difference between morality and ethics. Now, these are very closely related words. Many books may say that essentially they are the same, but there is no harm in knowing the difference, though we may use it interchangeably. So ethics is general for the entire society, whereas, as I said earlier, that morality is for me per se, right? Where is it coming from? So ethics is coming externally to me, and morality is coming from within me based upon my understanding of right and wrong. Why we do it? Why are we ethical? Why am I ethical? Let us say because my organization expects me to be. Why am I behaving in a morally correct manner? Because it is my internal engine which is pushing me in that direction. So my motivations for being ethical and my motivations for being moral may be different, right? It may be, now ethics is contextual and temporal. You may change your ethics may get changed as your organization changes, as your time changes, as your country changes, as your culture changes, so on and so forth. Whereas your morality is supposed to be with you for a longer period of time, unless of course you are very fickle and मतलब कि कुछ भी हो रहा है हमारे को कुछ फर्क ही नहीं पड़ रहा है and all that stuff. That is a different matter. But ethics to that extent is not permanent. as compared to morality. So that is, these are some of the broad differences between ethics and morality that you should be able to sort of keep in mind. Another, some few sentences that I have pasted over here is that, a person strictly following ethical principles may not have any morals at all. Likewise, one could violate ethical principles within a given system of rules in order to maintain moral integrity. Let us say you as an administrator is faced with the choice of breaking the rules of civil services conduct. But why will you break? You are breaking it because you believe that, as per your morality, this action needs to be taken even if this action is wrong as per the rules or not allowed as per the rules. So you may do that. Why? Because of the calling of your higher morality, right? So in abiding by the call of higher morality, you may deviate from the ethical rules, but not too much. You should not do that too much because rules have been put into place for certain reasons. A moral person, although perhaps bound by a higher covenant, may choose to follow a code of ethics as it would apply to a system, make it fit. In the sense that, yes, my morality may dictate many things to me, but I choose to remain within the code of ethics. Why? Because, let us just fit in. Coming to this point, why be morals? Why be moral? It is helpful for us. So, there is this word summum bonum. The idea is that human beings, as as I was discussing, even animals try to help each other out, right? They try to be at their best behavior, to try to bring the best out of themselves. Same is our drive, that we want to bring the best out of ourselves, towards which morals sort of help us, right? They are objective principles which guide our actions. It helps in the functioning of society, as I've discussed earlier. And it's a lot like nutrition, in the sense that, you may not appreciate intaking of a nutritious diet today, but 5 years down the line, continuously, if you intake a nutritious diet, you will be a very healthy individual, as a result of which you will be a happy individual. I may not be happy taking the moral stands or the ethical stands that I am taking today, because they are not bringing me any immediate gratification, but 5 years down the line, I'll be free of any blemish. I'll have a good opinion about myself. Probably the society will have a great opinion about me. Probably. So if to that extent morality, I'm just trying to explain to you that, how morality, and this is where UPSC also asks us questions that, being moralistic is not immediately going to help us. So should we be or should we not be? So the answer is pretty simple, that holding or having a nutritious diet is not going to be very tasty as my vada pav or as my misal pav, but it's definitely going to be helpful in the longer run. There are four branches of ethics that we need to look at. There is this descriptive ethics, right, which sort of describes, empirically describes the ethical standards, customs, taboos, conventions within any particular society. So it's much like a sociologist going into a new community and, penning down everything about that community, right? We're trying to understand how actual choices are made on the ground. So there are some examples that going ahead we will be looking at. So this is about descriptive ethics, that we're basically trying to describe. Then there is normative ethics. So our Bhagavad-Gita or the golden rule. What is the golden rule? That do unto others what you would have done unto yourself, right? So normative ethics, in the sense, there is a root word is norm. Norm मतलब rule. Rule मतलब कि आपको ये करना चाहिए और ये नहीं करना चाहिए. So it sort of gives you a litmus test. It sort of gives you the kind of character traits that you should try and develop. So our Bhagavad Gita also teaches us a lot of those things, and there are many other examples that you can quote for normative ethics कि क्या करना चाहिए क्या नहीं करना चाहिए. This meta ethics business is not very useful, in the sense that it basically it's in the realm of ideas. It sort of, it deals with the origin of the concept of good, bad, desirable, undesirable, likable, dislikable, so on and so forth. So it sort of goes into the language. It sort of goes into how the language developed. It sort of goes into how the words developed and they got their meanings. Now it's not really helpful, much helpful so far as our present discussion is concerned. So let's go right ahead of that. And this is very, very important. Applied ethics, as I was discussing with you earlier. So is active euthanasia okay? Is abortion of babies okay? Yeah. What kind of rights do animals have, right? So applied ethics basically deals with those kind of topics where there is sufficient amount of contradiction available within the society, wherein I may say that, chicken is really tasty, whereas you may look at it as a cruelty to animals, and I may justify it using my set of justifications, and you will do it from your side. To that extent, and this is really helpful, that even within public administration, even within the realm of civil services, there are so many decisions that need to be taken, right? And there are going to be arguments and counter arguments from multiple sides. So we need to be able to sort of take cognizance of those arguments, and based upon those arguments, we need to sort of apply our ethical theory or moralistic theory and come to the right decision कि हमें ये करना है या हमें ये नहीं करना है. That is the entire, that's the life of a civil servant. It is nothing but a bundle of decisions that you have to take, and those bundle of decisions, it better be more, many of those decisions better be ethically correct and morally correct rather than be ethically wrong or morally wrong. Because if you as a decision maker are taking many wrong decisions, then that is going to have a severe implication for the society, right? So far as the determinants of ethical behavior is concerned, now what determines how ethical I am or I am not? It depends upon multiple factors, extraneous factors as well as internal factors. So extraneous factors is I couldn't have controlled my birth, I couldn't have controlled my upbringing, I couldn't have controlled the kind of values that I was exposed to in family, in school, right? But let us say that those were extraneous factors, and then there are also some internal factors, in the sense that once I have attained some sort of a maturity or some sort of an age, I should be able to sort of decide that what is right, what is wrong. The entire society's culture also has a bearing upon me, as well as the institution that I'm a part of will decide how ethical or unethical I am. Let us say that I join a department having extremely high standards of ethical conduct set by previous supervisors, present supervisors, and present set of peers, and everybody is very, very committed to that and very willing to follow and all that stuff. To that extent, my ethical behavior will be better as compared to when I am a part of an unethical organization, which doesn't mean that I cannot do anything to change it. As Mahatma Gandhi said, that I should be the change that I want to see in the society. So to that extent, at a reasonable age and understanding, I can have my own choices, and then the blame lies with me if I have taken the wrong decisions, and the probably the praise or the respect lies with me if I have taken the right decision. So this is about determinants of ethical behavior. Going ahead, we will go deeper and deeper into the syllabus. Hope you are liking it. Thank you very much. Have a great day.